Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Challenge 40 Battle of the Eras RHAP podcast for episode 4. I am Brian Cohen. With me, as always, is my co-host, Ali Lasher. Ali, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing great. Doing great. Another fun episode. Good season so far. Ready to discuss it? It's a good one.
Can I say, in the spirit of Era 1, rapidly aging and needing a doctor, I've been going to bed quite early as of late and getting up very, very early. It's making this podcast harder. I almost fell asleep before we started.
Yeah, behind the curtain is a little bit later than we normally record. Well, not normally. Later than we've recorded this season. Earlier than we've recorded in the past. But here we are.
I've changed. I've aged. As our heroes on Era 1 age, we age as well, apparently.
Yes, but we got a full, we came into this episode knowing the format as opposed to last week. So we got a good idea of how the structure will go.
Not to put my image at issue here, but I have to just fix my headband and nobody talk about it. Keep going as you were. I'm just going to do this. For the listeners, you wouldn't have known.
Any changes? I think we're both high on the format at the end of last week. Now that we got to see it play out in like a full structure, we knew the people going in as targets. Are we still high on the format?
I'm still generally high. I think there's a case to be made, and it's been made about whether they should be able to pick anyone who's in sort of the losing eras and not assign an era. But I like it how it is so far. I like how things are going. What about you?
Yeah, I'm into it. I think I've seen complaints of people not liking that it's like known going in, like these are the 8 people that could possibly go home, take some suspense out of it. But I think we just have lived in a challenge world of not knowing so much that I'm okay knowing things and knowing what the matchups could be, getting excited for the matchups. Like coming into this week, I think between all of the 4 men and 4 women, I was excited for any of the matchups. So I think that kind of built up a good buzz going in. So I'm okay with it. I'm still pretty high.
I agree. I don't know. I'm so obsessed with visual things. This is not a pen. This is a stylus I don't use, so I could put that down. Yeah, I agree.
You get Akiva vibes with like the changing things. You got pens in your
No,
hands.
Akiva would be asleep. Akiva would be laying down. He would have just
tired. It's like very Akiva vibes.
Listen, here's the thing. I don't think we're going to be in this much longer, so let's enjoy it while we're here, frankly. Like, I don't think we're going to be in it long enough to get tired of the predictability, especially the way, and we'll talk about it this episode, the eras are, at least for now, early days, dealing with this from like a voluntary perspective. 1, I don't know how long that's going to last. 2, by the time we get to like putting their dukes up and really fighting it out, I think we're going to modify the format. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it for now. I have no complaints. I mean, I might come across some complaints in my notes and I reserve the right to make them, but I presently am not thinking of any complaints.
Any sense of how many more rounds we have? Like, do you think we're done?
No, I don't know, but I do think like there's a world, they have to be projecting out what could happen if a pagonging happens. If one era gets absolutely decimated, where do we go from there? Like, I don't think they can. Maybe they're okay knocking one era down to one person competing in the elimination. I don't think so. So I just don't think the format is going to be able to last that long. I also think Laurel made a lot of decisions this episode that I don't think she has insider information, but I just think from an experienced player, she seems to be very confident that this is, at least at the final, going to be an individual game. One thing, taking a step back to last week, first of all, do you want to discuss that you'll be doing exit press this year? Should we discuss that?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to go back and recap sort of where we left off with Tony, what you learned in your exit interviews, what he's tweeted about, because I do think like what happened to him seems to have been unfair. So if we could bring him some justice on the pod, I'd like to do that.
But yes, exit press this season. I didn't plug it. I told Alex I didn't plug it last week because I knew I was supposed to be doing it. But it's like when you're like holding out for like, you're told you're getting like free tickets to something and you're like, you don't have the tickets in your hand yet, and you don't want to tell people you're going to a show and then be like, oh, actually, just kidding. The tickets fell through. I'm not going. As of recording last week, I didn't have the full details of the exit press. So I'd be like, hey, guys, guess what? I'm doing exit press. And then they like forget, like, who's this Brian Cohen schlub? And I don't get the information. And then I'd be like, just kidding. I'm not doing it. So I wanted to make sure it was happening first. So we're on board. The Anissa one, jumping the gun about who's eliminated this week. Anissa, I got it. Anissa's in the can, so you can listen to that. Horacio, unavailable, either just for me, hopefully just for me. I think for the wider audience as well. Not available. He's filming like 1,000 different shows probably, so he's unavailable. But you can catch Anissa's out there.
Yeah, and I listened to Tony and Jody's. It's very strange that they hadn't seen the episode prior to doing the exit press.
Right.
Tony, it's definitely worth checking out. Jody's also, but Tony was learning what the edit was like for him from all of the interviewers. He Instagrammed about this, like clearing the air. I think the summary is really just, God, I really am Arrow One. He Instagrammed about it. I think the summary, the gist is he maintains he did not throw the challenge. He did not want to go home. And I believe him, which makes the edit very strange.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was getting snowed in the discussion, but I believed him also. I just think it just makes no sense for why. Like, I know there was evidence pointing to why he seemed like he wanted to go home, but he could have just made himself go home a lot easier than he did, and a lot quicker and a lot less obvious. That I just don't buy it. So I think the show just like hung him out to dry. I don't know why. It doesn't make sense. We talked about last week. I think from just like a entertainment factor, it's like a less more compelling product of like tossing out the idea that Tony didn't want to be there. So I don't know why they did it like that, but that's where Tony Reigns is in Challenge World right now.
But he wants to come back, so that was nice to hear, because he did post kind of a cryptic, well, beautiful photo of his family, but he was like, chapter closed. And a lot of people were like, does that mean you're not coming back? But, spoiler alert, he says in your exit press that he intends to come back if he's invited. So he doesn't feel too badly burnt.
I hope he does. We'll see.
The other piece of old business, which goes into this episode, is a big complaint that I have.
Oh.
So we talked last week about the establishing shot of the picture frame that went back to Devin beating Bananas and a confessional that I believe you thought was new. And I was like, I think that was part of it. Well, it doesn't matter. But that was part of the flashback of Devin being like, we should all be lucky enough to defeat someone as horrible as like Bananas or whatever.
Right.
And we were puzzled to understand which elimination from the week prior was this sort of an echoing of. And our great Facebook group was like, no, that was like a spoiler to what would happen with Avery and Tony. And I was like, no, that would be lame. That would be lame if they're spoiling the major like plot point of the whole episode with a flashback. And then we see them kick off this episode with a very similar thing.
With Anissa and Jenny, you're saying?
No, we get a flashback of CT falling out of a trivia challenge to start this episode. And I just don't want a sort of throwback clip that tells us something that's going to happen this episode.
I guess so. I didn't even clock that one in particular. I thought they were just like teeing up that it's trivia, but I guess CT falling and then he fell. Yeah, I guess that's something to monitor. I guess that's becoming the new like silhouettes.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, it's not great. Keep those
now
out.
the imagery for your exit interview starts as a silhouette, and I was like, I wonder, and I was like, no, it's not. So good, you're doing better than I know you make that graphic yourself. So
yes, I'm hard at work behind the scenes doing all the artwork and stuff.
So I guess I said I didn't have any complaints. That is immediate complaint, but that's not format based. That's like spoiler based.
Yeah, but I mean, we get the scene from Jenny and Anissa. Good friends, I guess. Jenny's now coaching her. Anissa's looking for a coach. It was nice to see Jenny. Jenny's having more of her personality shown through this season than she did at all when she won the show her last time on. Like, she had the whole thing with Avery being like, you go girl, I love to see it. She's doing here with like Anissa. Like, we're finally seeing some semblance of like who Jenny is, because even when she won, I feel like I couldn't tell you two things about her. But like now, at least we're seeing Jenny in the mix a little bit, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this was a really solid moment for Jenny and Anissa, for Jenny, but certainly Jenny and Anissa. I think what Jenny had to say meant a lot to Anissa, both on an individual level, I'm sure, and then also just on a perception of her in the challenge level. We get an update on the severity of the injury she sustained that, frankly, we've made light of on this podcast. Probably every episode we've talked about it. But it seemed like she had really, really significant injuries at the end of Ride or Dies.
Mhm.
And, I love that Jenny it's sort of the equivalent of politicking. It's like what Nia is doing. I genuinely like Anissa. I genuinely respect her and want to give her flowers. And maybe she'll want to keep me around if I'm her trainer. Love
Yeah.
it. Win-win.
It's a Paula working outing, I guess, is the new
Paula
is the new
training.
mode. Yeah.
The other thing we get is I think we get two of CT's best pro tips to date in this episode. The first being, don't do anything drastic when the game changes. And I think he's speaking to sort of volunteering or throwing yourself in, like just don't panic. Don't
Mhm.
fight with people who throw you in. Just like let it ride and let people sink their own ships. I think that's really good advice. We immediately go to era 3, kind of like deciding if someone's going to volunteer so that it's easier, on the team, keeping morale up. We later see that trend where everyone's sort of volunteering. How long do you think the people who win elimination will actually let the people from the other era volunteer and decide that? Because they are forgoing a pretty significant advantage by honoring those volunteers.
So it's interesting. So one of the things that I don't know if I not that I believe her, but like I don't know if she said it as much as I understood her, but from the Anissa exit press, what she described is not only are you safe, like when you're a target, not only are you safe from being like picked that week, but you seem like you're also safe the following week. Because I asked Anissa like, "Oh, who would you have picked if you won?" I was like, "Oh, would you obviously pick Darrell?" And she said, "No, I couldn't because he just was one, so I can't pick him again." And then I clarified. I was like, "Oh, does that mean everyone has to be one?" She's like, "No, you just like can't go like tit for tat." So I don't know if she explained it correctly, and I feel like there's no way that's the case. But the way she explained it is like once you're you can't be picked it for like 2 weeks almost.
I thought okay. So I, while watching this episode, thought I had a breakthrough of what you were trying to say last week in terms of it not being tit for tat. And in that sense, I think this isn't about Anissa. This is about another version of this, is like you're sort of spreading the blood on your hands because you might be the person who made them a target, but another group is the people who made them go in.
Mm-hmm.
So like, who are you more mad at and spreading that around? I assumed if you were the targets and you won the daily, you are immune from you can't go in and you're immune from being made the next target. So like Bananas and Laurel, I would have thought could not be made the target.
Right. But that's what I thought. Like I thought you can't be target like back-to-back weeks.
Now it's interesting because Darrell won. Is she saying that like Avery and Darrell would have been safe, but other people who didn't go in would be targets? In which case, hate that. Like everybody has to be eligible except maybe the daily winners. Like maybe I could get on board there. Though I still think they should be able to face immediate repercussions if the people that they sent in win.
Yeah, like I think I saw someone pose the question, like, could Darrell have just to save face almost just turned like last week, turned to Avery and be like, "You're a target," or something like that. Would be kind of funny if someone could just like do that, which would be wild. Especially because like she can't do anything about it because she already picked Era 1, so it's kind of like you kind of like scathe that wrath, which would be kind of funny. But I guess I'm okay with like you can't be a target back-to-back weeks because then it goes into the let's just keep the same person in. But for that one moment, it would be pretty funny.
But yeah, I think this is what I mean. You shouldn't be able to be a target back-to-back weeks if you go in and win the elimination. Like you shouldn't be able to put your partner up who wins, your co-winner, not your partner. But I think if you were eligible for elimination, if you were a target and you did not go in and you did not win, you should be able to be nominated again. That's very strange to me.
But to your original question about people like volunteering, I think what saves it from this format is, yes, you might see people volunteering within their group to try to like save team bickering, like self-team bickering, like I'll like you could pick for me within your team, but I don't feel like it's going to happen a lot like outside the era. Like if an era one person's picking the team, I don't think we're going to see constant like era 2, 3, and 4 volunteering for that era 1 person to, oh, you could just pick me. Like I
But
think it was more of a one-offs.
isn't that what happened this at the end of this episode? I mean, not to spoil it,
Not all of
but
them. Like Josh backed out
yeah,
of
well,
volunteering.
nobody, right. So what I think should happen is in Josh's case, which I can't wait to talk to you about. I texted you about this. I just was like, I love Josh. Write it down.
Mm-hmm.
In the case where nobody nominates, so that's interesting. Yes, there's a world where no one in the era will nominate because they don't want to make it easier for the non-era person picking. But what I thought the conversations were this week were like, look at what era 1 did where Derek volunteered or whoever volunteered. I forget who volunteered last time. Why don't we make it so that, or like Jordan volunteered, that whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't want dissension in our group, so
Right.
let's all like own this decision together. Well, whether or not, I thought the attitude was whether or not our era wins, we will volunteer and have a rotation, so we'll continue this momentum as a group. So certainly we see people this week reneging on that and saying, I'm not going in.
Right.
But I also think that there's a world where some of these people are volunteering and the people in power should not honor that request. Like, don't tell me Tori, Aviv, or Avery are going to be nominated and I'm not going to put Tori up if I'm not in era 3. Like,
right.
No.
It should be, you should honor it if it makes sense for you. Like, I understand you don't want to get the blood back.
Brian
like,
pro tip.
That's like close to a CT pro tip. But like, use that as the excuse if someone's volunteering. But then you don't have to follow through. Yeah, like to your point, like if you always try to like nominate a Tory for like an era 3. But if you're worried about that blowback, I do understand the appeal of, hey, if someone wants to go in, let them go in type of vibe. And then I don't have to deal with if they win. They can't be mad at me because they asked to go in. So I can understand why people would follow suit with that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm more just curious when it's going to turn, when people are volunteering and people are going to say, no, I'm picking someone else. I think that's going to be a really interesting part of this format. I also think, like, if I'm Darrell and I'm assigning it and CT wants to, well, CT's on my team, and Jordan wants to volunteer, go ahead, because I'm not going to be eligible against you. Versus if someone I'm less afraid of wants to volunteer, absolutely not. I want to save you for when I might be eligible.
Yep. No, totally. And that's why, like, it is interesting that I almost feel like I wonder if they should change up the order. Also, the fact that they always start with era 1, because it kind of played out with Josh. Like, Josh probably would have volunteered, but then he sees CT in the board. He's like, screw that. I'm not doing that. So maybe they should kind of change up who is picked first.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. Speaking of Josh and Tori have a catch up after the big drums last week. And yeah, this was like a nice moment. I thought like a lot of maturity from Josh and Tori from where we've seen them, years and years ago, of like owning it. We see a lot of Tori saying, I'll listen to you and let's hash it out. But then she mostly talks and they don't hash it out, but they do end in a good place.
It was very frustrating though, because I still feel like Tori gaslit Josh into this apology, because Tori doesn't apologize. Josh is the one that apologizes, but Tori was the one who did things wrong the night before. So Josh is just apologizing for being angry, but Tori didn't really apologize for causing Josh to be angry. And that was very frustrating. Like, I didn't like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, I'm definitely critical of Tori in this, but in a different way. I think Tori is still living in a world where she did nothing wrong with the Theo, like, Kiki. And Josh kind of corroborates that story of focusing on, like, yeah, the way I talked to you was a problem. And I think the way he talked to her was a problem. Like, I defend his anger in that moment, but like telling one of your best friends, like, you don't want to be their friend anymore and like, you're not friends. It probably was out of pocket if that's not how he feels. But yeah, I think she is still on the narrative of like, we have a lot to hash out about the Challenge USA too. And they don't discuss it. And Josh doesn't say like, no, it was really about this. So, I mean, if Josh wants to let it go, Josh wants to let it go. But yeah, they should look back at this clip and be like, Tori still doesn't really understand what happened.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because like if Josh, I mean, he can, at the very least, he has to let it go during like the season. He can harbor things after the season, but it would be wild for Josh to cut ties with one of the strongest and most connected players in the game right now. Like I was Tori is such a valuable piece for Josh, especially her coming along with Devin and Jordan. Like you would want her as an ally. So it would be a crazy stupid move for her for Josh to cut ties with Tori right now, and then if he wants to rehash things after. But I would think he probably still harbors some animosity there.
See, I don't know. I believe Josh when Josh was like, Tori's like a sister to me. Tori's like family. And like, this was a pretty stupid fight when it comes to like family. So do I think Josh is mad about Challenge USA too? I don't know. And like, I don't know how mad he is anymore about like your friend drunk laughing at you, getting embarrassed, you know, like,
Right.
I don't know how serious it is between them. I think their friendship could survive them discussing Challenge USA 2 and the Nia thing in the house right now. It's interesting we didn't see it. Maybe I don't really want to see it. Speaking of alliances, we do get a little nugget of insight that Josh says their alliance is Tori, Devin, Casey, Anissa, and Josh. I feel like this, maybe it's obvious. It wouldn't have been who I would have like automatically assumed the limited core was for all of these people.
Yeah, I mean that's the Vacation Alliance, right? Like that's the grouping of it, I guess, without Nani because Nani's not here. But that's like who the Vacation Alliance is, really. So.
Bananas wasn't in that at all.
No,
I thought that's when Devin and Bananas became cool because they were like in Florida.
No, I think the infamous
Mariah
photo.
Mm.
Yeah, but I think the photo of them, like that photo of them all at the beach, I don't think Bananas was in that. I think it's just like this core, what is it, 5 or 6 people? Like this is the Reddit Vacation Alliance.
Yeah, well, I don't live there. I came across some ugly things on Reddit recently from 2 years ago that I responded to. But anyway, you never know where I am. I'm everywhere except for here.
Ali is not on Twitter, but she is in the deep Reddit pages from 2 years ago.
So, yeah, it begs some questions though, how sort of like Michelle's gonna fit into this, how Jordan fits into this. Obviously, all like spokes on a wheel. And now what's gonna happen with Anissa gone? That was critical era spanning coverage.
It was fantastic work.
Here's a question, and maybe this is like Brian Color Report adjacent. We see everyone strap up before the challenge and put on these armbands that I don't feel like we've seen in the last few episodes. Why are they all purple? And they bleed into the navy shirts.
Well, purple is very much the color, one of the key colors of this season. It's like purple and like yellowish. Isn't that like on the logo? Am I making that up?
I don't know. Like for $1 million, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think like on the photos of the season, isn't it like there's a lot of purple going around?
Okay, why are they all being put in purple armbands?
MTV's into the purple. That's what they like for this season.
Challenge 40.
Like
I see what you're saying. There's like purple with like a little outline, but I'm just like, I don't know. I thought that was stupid that they're all wearing the same color, and their shirts have the crest. Glad you didn't take issue with it. I didn't love it. It's a no for me.
Went right over my head. That's all I got.
The challenge daily.
Yeah. We got a trivia. So the name for this one trivia was called Cradled Cranium. TJ lays it out. They're all playing together. Classic trivia game. If you get a question wrong, 2 people drop. Interesting twist to this one. It's not necessarily about the number of questions you get right because there's a Jeopardy style board. So you can pick and choose the degree of difficulty of the questions, 100 to 400. And it's all about the points you get. Lowest points goes into elimination. Highest points wins. Key fact, if there's a tie, there will be a sudden death elimination.
So many things to discuss about this.
All the questions were challenge history-ish based.
Yes. So I think for challenge 40, I am fine with it all being challenge. I like that they broke it up into categories. I like
Mhm.
that they had difficulty. I love that. I do not on an ongoing basis want trivia to be all challenge history.
Right, and I don't think it will be. I think this was specific
They've
for
done it
40.
before.
They
They've done it
have,
before.
they have,
I'm,
but I
I'm just
think
saying.
I think for 40 they wanted to make it history of the challenge base, which I liked. I'm
And it
okay
makes
with.
sense. It's
Yeah.
fine. The other thing is they had the greatest intro to this in the history of introductions when TJ goes like to them, you hate it, we love it. Direct to camera. I
Mhm.
love that. They're not having TJ break the fourth wall enough. Like I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it was giving his Dirty 30 confessionals, which was fun. Bring those back.
And his laugh was extremely well highlighted. I forget who said it. Like, does he practice that laugh
I
at
think it was
home?
John A. Yeah, great
So
confessional.
So I showed this to the audience at the end of last season. I did not have a chance to give this to you yet. It still sits here in this box.
Looking forward
But
to
I
it.
do want to show it to you now because it is related. So I had 2 glasses made, 4 total, 2 for each of us, 1 for your
Mm.
household, 1 for mine. And I don't know if it will show up here, but this is just green water. I just dyed it to hopefully make it, but I don't think it'll show up on camera. Oh, it's kind of showing up.
Oh,
It
it's TJ
is
laughing. That's so cool.
Yeah, so for the audience, it's an etched glass of TJ laughing during trivia. And I was just like, "Oh my god, this was so perfect." So I had to break it out, but I'm not drinking
Mhm.
this cuz it's green water. Like I said, it's in its brat era.
It's not purple. You don't want to go purple with the theme.
I didn't get the memo on the branding that it was purple. Go Cats. Yeah. What did you make and I don't know if Anissa said anything about this, but did they have any control over who was dropping off?
It's interesting. Yeah, I didn't ask her about that. I probably should have. I
Eh,
didn't. Yeah, I didn't think it was that big a deal. It's. I would guess they probably did. It seemed like they got to pick like a sort of a captain, right? And then that person would always be last to drop, like no matter what. Like I think Jordan was like the captain, and Kylan was like the captain, so they were one of the last people to drop. And then after that, maybe it was just random because it seemed like some people were prepared for it, but some people weren't. Like Emily made like a nice catch for herself. Other people like CT kind of just fell in, but it seemed like yeah, it was kind of just people just falling.
Yeah, I think Jenny braces the second they get an answer wrong. So I thought like maybe it was based on how they were seated because they get to
Mm,
pick who answers questions. And, anyway, some logistics, unclear. I really thought it was funny when a lot of the people were like, I was there, you were
right.
there, like I was the first solo champion. But Lauren Glickman says, I can't decide if I should be proud or ashamed at how well I would have done on this version of trivia. To you, Brian, I ask, how well do you think you would have done in the challenge trivia?
Yeah, so I thought I got the first couple ones like, oh, Kara individual. I definitely knew that one. There was the CT and Adam fight. Definitely knew that one. And then they started to get into the geography, and I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to get any of these right because I don't even know where we are right now. So I didn't know those. Some of them were hard. Some of them I could get, but there was like a good variety pack of questions that I think they did a good job with the difficulty scales.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just so happy that the contestants don't know the show as well as I don't know the show. It's like we were all there, but we were there live, We were
Right.
there. They were there playing. I was there watching it as I was when I was in my youth.
Mhm.
Um
I mean, even if you were there, like, if someone asked you a specific question of, like, 20 years ago,
that's what I'm
even if that
saying.
like, if they ask you something about, like, "Oh, in your, like, senior year of high school, like, what class did you have 4th period?" I'd be like,
Not
"I
dark that you're saying that that was
don't
20 years ago. Who are you
know." I
calling
think
old?
it might be
Um
more no, actually, not yet 20 years
it's
ago.
it's
Okay, we're
it's
in the
less
clear.
than it's
Yeah,
less than 20 years
it's less. It's
ago.
less.
No, I mean, ask me what happened last week on this podcast. I'd be like,
Right.
in the water, like, bye, good night. Um, but yeah, I was dying when they were like Kendall Showmans was Wes. Like some of these were
Mhm.
just like so funny. The geography was tough. Kylan tweeted about this. I pulled the tweet, but like, why would you go geography for 400 when your
Mhm.
background is in like every other fact about the
Right.
challenge? I saw a clip from Avery on the official challenge podcast. Um, friend of RHAP, but like about how like truly amazing Kylan's historic knowledge of the challenge is. Why would he go geography? Like,
Wait,
of
who's the
course
friend
that's
of
gonna
RHAP?
work.
Avery or the official challenge podcast?
The official challenge
That's right.
podcast.
That's right. Wait. All right. Okay, I got it.
Honestly, the audience is probably grateful anytime you're like, "Can you explain what you mean?" Because I'm just
I was like, did
whoosh.
Avery go on RHAP? Did I miss that?
Brian's jealousy just exploded.
It really did. I was like, where? I put myself on the wheel.
Myself on the wheel. Okay, let's talk about CT hitting the water. First of all, on a question about the first ever Hall Brawl. I at this point in no way thought CT was going to get pulled from the game with how like heavily they teased this situation.
Yeah, I as much as they were teasing it, and then it went to the commercial where it did, I was like, okay, this isn't going to be bad. Usually when there's an injury, it kind of just like happens, and you're like, oh crap, and then they're gone. So I'm glad, was very glad about that. And I know we need the big falls and the splash to get the TJ laughing, but I will always contend that it is not worth it to risk someone being injured for this type of challenge. Like they do not need to be up 30 feet in the air. Let them be up 10 feet in the air, and it's like a normal dive into the water, and everyone's gonna be safe. There is no reason to have them up as high. The challenge does not have a good history with this type of stuff. There's always injuries, especially on this type of season. Right now, knock on wood, we're getting lucky with nothing going wrong. We don't need them up 30 feet in the air. Have them up 10 feet, 15 feet in the air, and we get the same reactions. Do it slow-mo. Who cares? And it's fine.
Yeah, I co-sign that, and no disrespect to Challenge Medical and shout out to them for making sure CT was okay. But my 3-year-old nephew swims out in an inner tube to rescue a 500-pound muscle man. Like I was like, what's that guy gonna do in that inner tube?
Right.
But shout out to them, they took care of him. I agree. If we had lost CT from the challenge here, we riot. Like that's insane.
What a sucked.
All right. So Era 2 immediately loses. And you know what? Sorry, Era 4. And that tracks. They've been around the least long. They've been, I mean, some of them, the challenge premiered probably before they were even alive.
Yeah. Or they just heard about
anyone
it like 2 years ago.
19? No, like they were like not old enough to watch for sure.
Although there aren't that many. I think it's suddenly like Era 4 is not even like that young. Like a lot of them are kind of our-ish age. So it's not even like.
Keep calling us old.
Kids.
They're not even that young. They're our age. Oh my God. Okay. Well, I'm a wee baby. Comes down to Era 2 and 3. Anissa goes out again in geography for 400. I guess the question's reset. Comes down to Era 2 and 3. And you got to be thrilled when you get the question. Like these cousins had a fight about a family bakery. Chef's kiss on whoever wrote that question and didn't care that calling it cousins limits it to like 4 possible people.
Yes, that was. I love that they got the clip in. Love that they did the flashback to it. Love to see it. It was a very exciting end to this daily. It was like Jordan against. I think it was 4 people from Era 2. We're still maybe even 6 people that were up there. So like they had like a few cracks at the win. But they kept missing the questions, and Jordan dropped, but then other Era 2 couldn't get the win and dropped down to a sudden death. And I also love to see like how long you can get a little timestamp of how long these dailies are taking. It was nighttime by the end of this one, so clearly this one was taking quite a while.
Yeah. The one category I slayed in were the questions about the other reality shows these people were on, who's in politics and who was like in whatever movie. Yeah. No, but like I know Sean Duffy was in politics. Well, in fairness, I was like that guy with the cowboy hat. So I don't think I would have got credit for that. But we were just talking about endurance in the Facebook group, and they, shout out there, John A. winning endurance. No one knew. We would have known that. But yeah, as you said, sudden death happens. Laurel versus Jordan. And a little bit of a cheap thing here. 2 episodes ago, which was probably like 2 days ago for the contestants, we all learned when Pole Wrestle debuted because they mentioned it in the first arena in the Invitational. And Josh Creek, though, did shout out that Paul Russell was mentioned. Did you see this Paul Russell thing?
Oh, on the Instagram comments? Yeah, that's wild.
The funniest thing of all time occurred online, such that I couldn't save it for social media. I had to use it when they mentioned Pole Wrestle. Ali Lacoste put in the Facebook group. It came from screenshots from Twitter from Fred Lee. Corey wrote, "I'm not even going to lie to you. I think Darrell might get me in that. I would say Paul Russell is probably one of his best eliminations. Now, I'm like, after failing trivia, I'm like, oh my God, who the hell is Paul? Like Paul Russell on the challenge. Fessel coming in hot. Damn, I'm over here Googling who Paul Russell is, and the whole time you just can't spell Paul Russell.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad because that's like you have to spell both wrong to get it to be like that. That's like giving ruffle feathers to like the nth degree.
So then Jordan gets a question: who is Devin's rival in Rivals 3? Now, I have an issue with this because, again, the edit is trying to make, Jordan look sus, like he threw this challenge because Corey and Jordan were talking about how Corey has a child with Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
Why does just mentioning Cheyenne mean that Jordan is supposed to know that she was rivals with Devin? Corey does not say we were all talking about how they were on Rivals 3 together. He just says, like, we were talking about my baby shower. Okay, was the other mother of your child, Taylor, also Devin's rival, and we're supposed to know that? No.
Yeah, it's so interesting because as this was happening, I didn't even give it a second thought that Jordan would throw this. I didn't think I thought there was no way. Why would he throw this? That's such a risky thing to do when it's like a 50-50 shot you're going in. Like, I know he has the relationship with Laurel, but who knows how like strong that is. Bananas is obviously there to maybe push it over the edge to get him to go in. So I didn't think there was any chance Jordan was throwing it. But now I think there's no chance he didn't throw it. Like, I think based off the confessional that he had, the conversations in the house, Anissa in our conversation thinks that he 100% threw it. So I think he 100% threw it.
But he would have been in power. If
I
he
think
didn't throw it, so it was a win-win situation. Like he doesn't want blood on his hands that badly because he didn't want to so he doesn't want to put in Laurel and Bananas, and he doesn't want to put in Anissa. He feels that, so he's gonna betray his like ex-fiance's main alliance. Is that what you're saying? Like, he doesn't want to be choosing between Laurel and Bananas and Anissa.
I think he just didn't want to choose. Like, he just didn't want to choose. He's just like, I don't need to make a decision and get
right. But those would
be
the choices. So it's like it's too hard.
Not even that it's too hard. It's just like if I can get by being safe and not having to vote someone in, that's like the best of both worlds.
No, but I think I'm convincing myself in saying, like, if it was Anissa who he's got this long-standing relationship with and not wanting to take this hit at Bananas and whatever
well,
his
they are ride or
relationship
dies
with
after
Laurel.
all. Very much ride or dies.
Yeah, but it's also Tori's best friend. Okay, maybe I'm convinced of that, but I think it's so stupid. And it's what's really stupid is from the editing perspective, and I love the season, and I generally like how it's being edited. The boy who cried wolf, like the boy who cried throwing the challenge. Don't edit a fake challenge throw around Tony last week. That now when I see this, I'm supposed to believe Jordan threw it, and my gut instinct is to say that's insane. Like, we can't every week edit it that everybody's throwing every challenge.
Right. At least for this one, there was the confessional of Jordan be like, "Oh, I would never throw that," with like the Grinch eating smile type of thing. So that's where I was like, "All right, I guess he did do this," because Jordan is one of like the peak of I'm going to give it everything I have every single time. You never like don't throw things like it's against the spirit of competition. So like if he's like even like hinting at it minimally, let alone almost fully, I gotta take him for what his word is.
Yeah, but I'm like, Jordan's enough in production that, like, could they catch him in a smile? Could they be like making him laugh? Like, I was so pissed at what happened with the Tony edit that like I was like unwilling to perceive this as true. Right. And I didn't even give it the next level of thought, which we did here is like, I guess he wouldn't want to choose between Anissa and Bananas and Laurel. So fine. Right. But wouldn't that have been more novel and exciting had we not again burned the faker card last week?
Would have been.
Fake ass bully. Let's talk about that fight between Laurel and Darrell because
that came out of the clouds.
Right out of the clouds, out of the clear blue sky.
Yeah. Darrell. I think Darrell, who threw the first word shot?
Oh, Laurel, because she screamed "F you, Darrell."
Yeah. So
and he said
"F you, Darrell," and then back, and then really like out of the clouds. Laurel takes the shot that Darrell is getting massages from Emily, and Emily's gonna be like, "What the hell did I get out of this?" Like, turn around to me because that was just like very messy.
I give Darrell first when Darrell was screaming back at Laurel, I was like, just let Laurel be Laurel. Like, if Laurel's gonna do one thing, it's she's gonna stew on something that she doesn't think makes sense, which she doesn't think she should have been put in to begin with. So she has been thinking about this. Why me? Why not Emily? Over and over and over again. Then she wins, and the first thing out of her mouth is boom, right back at Darrell. Like, let her scream F you. Who cares? I was very surprised to see Darrell bite back. However, once Laurel brings in not only Emily, but Darrell's marriage, I was grateful the edit showed them doing this and it being like a totally clinical, fully clothed, bright light, like massage therapist moment.
Right.
I would take 1,000 massages from Emily if I were in that house. I thought that was like quite disgusting from Laurel, and I'm shocked that Darrell didn't lose his mind when she said that.
Yeah, it was wild to throw it, and it's almost. I mean, we'll see if it leads to something. Like if it leads to something like a beef in the season between Laurel and Emily. But it's almost really messy from the show to even like include that. Like they could have easily just cut that out and not even put it in. But it's even kind of messy from the edit perspective to like throw Darrell under the bus from seemingly not doing anything, right? Like he wasn't doing anything wrong. So it's not like they're like protecting him. They're just protecting him from nearly like false allegations, and which I'm okay if they do that.
See, I need if Laurel's screaming that, I think the effect and like, look, if it had some impact on his marriage, then yeah, it's not worth it. It's like getting injured during trivia. It's certainly not worth it. But assuming, like, again, they backed it up with just like immediate footage of it being completely fine.
They did.
I think it really just made Laurel look bad. I think Laurel is having one of her most unlikable seasons. Like when she's like, "You look stupid. You look stupid." I was just like, oh my God, Laurel. Like, it's not surprising for Laurel to be a sore winner, but I think to be on episode 4 and her have this many, like, pretty, like, bad moments, I don't know if she's in a bad place, like, post the Nicole stuff or what, but, like, it almost feels like extra bad, Laurel.
Yeah, it's a combination of, the Nicole stuff coming off that, but also her coming off a win. So she feels that, like, air of invincibility again, probably, that she, like, do whatever she wants and no one's gonna be able to get her out. She's gonna go and win again. So it's probably both of those, like two hurricanes merging together, and it's like an explosion. Because this is like her eviscerating like Big Easy level of like kind of grossness that we got brewing with Laurel, which seems like it might happen.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I
down the
shouldn't
road.
say this is the worst, but the worst of her recent appearances, which were like,
Right.
I don't know, 2 or 3 appearances. So CT comes back and says the only thing he lost was his dignity. And I'm like, I've never felt closer to CT in my entire life.
And he just comes back so perfectly. He's just like strolling all in, just like chilling. He's like, yeah, I'm back. I fell, but I'm good, blah, blah, blah.
He can only lay on one cheek, but
it's the opposite of Laurel. He's just like more likable this season almost with his like bro tips. He's like jolly good lucky spirit. He's been great.
That jolly good lucky spirit. Mike Bloom somewhere just giggled to himself. One thing on the CT pro tips, totally out of the clouds again. Do you think like Bananas is pissed that CT is getting this bit? Do you think like CT kind of started doing this bit in the confessional and they were like, yeah, this is great? Like it does kind of endorse CT unofficially, officially as like the elderly goat. Not elderly, wise goat.
Yeah, that's a good question. If I speak to CT at some point this season, I'm going to ask him that the origin of the pro tip. Was this like, I think he probably did one, maybe even a second one. And they're like, oh, this is good. Keep this up. I definitely want to find out about that. I feel like Bananas probably is a little jealous because like he probably would love to be doing this little bit, but like he couldn't pull it off. I think if it was like a Bananas pro tip, people would be like rolling their eyes like, who's he to give me tips? But CT giving the tips is like, oh, I'll take the advice from CT.
Yeah, totally. And I think like CT being on Era 1, it definitely applies more as like a foundational thing. But we have another great night out, which I think you expertly said last week totally is enhanced by the fact that only 8 people even are worried about or at this. Yeah. 2 people going in, 6 people worried. Like we're not well, maybe we would, but I feel like we're not getting Brad and Emily having a date over a bottle of red wine at the bar if they're worried about going in.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think there'd be a lot more trepidation. People wouldn't want to see people going into groups. They'd be worried, like, oh, if we break off, are they just going to talk about us, things like that. So we're seeing a lot more of a relaxed atmosphere at this. And yeah, the Brad and Emily date was sweet.
Did I say Brian and Emily or did I say Brad and Emily?
I think
That's
you
kind of
said Brad and
confusing.
Emily.
Okay,
That
that's
is,
so confusing. But unlike Avery, I'm not a pervert for Sherbert. That was so funny. I love that she got production in that. Like that
yeah,
production was laughing at that and they
yeah,
left it
it's a
in.
good one. That's a good line.
Um, Everybody's really talking about, I think, the big story of this is the obvious choice for the team format is to put in Horacio against Jordan. I
Hmm.
think everyone's kind of accepting that Jenny versus Naya and Jenny versus Anissa is kind of 6 of 1. Like they're all kind of at the same threat level.
Hmm.
But putting in, and the argument could be made for Derek too, but that like Jordan and Horacio would be like the headline prize fight. How could you miss this shot and not
Yeah,
take it?
yeah, especially the Jordan side of it. I think it's like if you want to get Jordan out, having to go against Horacio was like a pretty good matchup. Obviously, Horacio's already beaten him in like a balls in, like very athletic type of thing. So if he can beat him in that, there's probably most things he would be able to beat him in. So I think it's like, oh, this is like a really good shot to get Jordan out. And it's the type of thing that we've screamed about with CT for years. Is like you just gotta throw him in every single time until he goes home. Like your best chance to beat Jordan is to have someone else beat him in elimination because you might get lucky and it's something where his situation of having just one hand, it would really come back to hurt him and you knock him out. You don't really have that factor in a final. That's not going to come into play as much. So take the shot now while you can in an elimination, especially the people saying all doing it. They don't have to be the ones doing it. It's like, let Horacio go do it. Come on, put him in against Horacio.
It's also probably a better case too that it was thrown and pre-orchestrated because it's very interesting to me how Bananas so easily and frankly quite expertly, you know, says this is Laurel's decision. Quite like in a different way than Rachel does with the CT and
Yeah.
Anissa thing. He kind of takes Derek and Anissa aside and is like, look, Laurel's had an intimate relationship with both of these guys, both Horacio and
Yeah.
Jordan. And if she's putting her foot down, I'm not doing what Tony just did. I think that was so, like, first of all, clear what Bananas was doing, but in the moment, so expert. Like, I was very, very impressed by that.
Yeah, it's brilliant because he knows Jordan's the type of person if you save him, he's not then just going to like fire the shot at him. So in Banana's mind, he's now keeping the peace between him and Jordan. But if this was him in position of power with someone else besides Laurel, he would absolutely put the shot in and try to get Jordan out against Horacio. But now he doesn't have to worry about Jordan coming back against Bananas because he knows also Jordan's the type of person that's going to keep nominating himself when he can to be a target, to be like the savior. So Jordan's going to be in this position probably a couple more times and have that shot to do against Bananas himself. So yeah, the fact that he knows that there's no real opportunity to take the shot at Jordan, don't even let it leak out that you were thinking about it. And in fact, double down on the like, oh, I would have saved you. Like I would be on board to save you. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah. The pitch I wasn't as impressed with, but if it was anyone besides Horacio, I wouldn't believe it. Is like, I'd like to face Derek. I guess the person he deems who would be easier to beat in elimination, which I don't know that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants to run a final against the better people, and Jordan is the best. He wants to run a final
Right.
against the best, so he'll take who he deems a weaker elimination opponent, so he can have the harder final opponent.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. I mean, I kind of felt bad for Horacio. Obviously, is like coming off Nerys pretty recently going home. He just seems such like a little downer, sad. Like it's not that Horacio is the most like upbeat, chipper guy, but he did seem extra level of mellow through this time. Even like Bananas are trying to like crack jokes with him in the dungeon. It's hard to get even a smile there. I felt bad. Horacio like seems very sad without Nerys right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he says when he goes home is like, I had my best rookie season, then I came up short season 2, and then I go home early season 3. Like I'm in decline. And for
Mm-hmm.
someone who puts such a premium on winning and the athletic part of the challenge, it must genuinely be really tough for him. From a TV perspective, while he's in good company of people who want to run with the best. Jordan's in that category, Kara's in that category, right? Like, I'm not interested really in that category as like
No.
a dominant force in the challenge. Like, I don't want you to be making who you go up into elimination decisions based on having the best people in the final. I want you strategizing and clawing. That's a part of winning this game, is getting people out early who are going to beat you and not bringing them to the end and losing to them. Like, I don't want to watch that over and over. So I'm not done with Horacio, but we have different ethos. Like, what his sort of attitude of the game is different than my attitude of the game that I'm watching.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to have, the diversity of that opinion, to have a Horacio in the mix, to mix things up a little bit, but it's just wild that is like, I don't, and I believe it. Like, I don't think he's like saying that for shtick to try to
100%.
keep himself out. I think he generally, like, if he could, he would bring in like Olympic athletes to put in the final and try to push himself to try to win. So it's just different.
Now, could he develop into somebody who's a strategist? I think his partnerships with Nerys and Kyland buoyed him last season, made him more interesting, me more interested in him. Like, I think he can be used by his alliance members, and I think he's got a good read on like who's really his friend and who's not, and like he was getting a little interesting in confessionals earlier on. So I think he could develop into having more game sense. Just like I'd like him to get there. I'd like him to get there.
Yeah, I don't know
He'll
if
be
he'll ever
unstoppable.
really, when he's on his own though, like this, I don't know if he'll ever do that. I think he needs multiple people that he's like playing for and playing with, and like he's encouraging him to do these type of things. I don't think he'll be the snake cutthroat guy without people behind him. I think if he's on his own, he's gonna be like, I just want to like compete with the best.
If he's got Leroy upside, I'm interested. Like I don't even care if he tries to make moves and they're bad. Like I just want him to like have more interest in actually playing the game.
I'm gonna say something kind of mean here, but is Leroy upside like that great?
Yes, fan favorite, fun in confessionals. You're rooting for him. Good person, good guy, like good family, good girlfriend, good what? Like, yeah, that's great. Like if Horacio could just get in the game a little bit more and want to do anything to win, not just beat Jordan. Like.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Okay. I'm down on Leroy after his like flame out this season. Like, is that the best we could hope for Horacio's like?
Probably, yeah, and that's a great outcome. Anyway, Derek pulls out his little scenarios. Now, I had to like go back 100 times to take a picture of this so I could see what it was. It looked like a game of MASH, like from Teen Girls. At the time we see the paper, it's just a list of the people on the eras. Like, there's been no notation made.
It was giving very much the SpongeBob episode when he's like writing so much, he's doing so much, and then they zoom in and he just wrote the. That's what it felt like with all the Derek notes.
I was like, it's just the teams. I was relieved to see he had fleshed it out a bit when they went to the deliberation.
You know what? This was probably Derek's most strategic segment in the history he's ever been on the show. So outside of the Horacio mode of like, I want to compete against the best, this was like a thought out plan that involved multiple different like things and things to incorporate. So I give Derek some credit. Maybe like doing the podcast over the years, he's, learned some different skill sets.
Yeah, I think the interview you did with Jody was very illuminating, that like the decision, I don't think we thought about this, that the decision Derek's making to go in against Mark is not only to help Terrell, but it's going in a controlled environment who who your opponent is. And then hopefully the next one, when the game switches up on you, you won't be first on the list to go in.
Right.
However, how did Derek get nominated this time? Did Derek self-nominate when Avery was picking again?
No, because I think Avery picked Derek because I think Derek.
Oh, he said, you're not looking at me.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of a shitty move for Avery to pick Derek again in this spot, but I do think she just kind of panicked and like picked.
Well, I guess the other picks, like Mark was gone, she couldn't pick Darrell, so
CT.
She's not gonna pick CT. That's
why not? She picked like every other like big beast. Like,
I guess that's true.
She picked. Well, Jordan volunteered.
Yeah.
She picked Horacio.
Could have picked CT. That would be good.
I think she really did just decide based on like, I think Era 1 were her friends and she just like picked based on that, but she could have very easily said, I can't pick Darrell, Mark's gone, and Derek just went in. And I don't think CT would have even been mad at her.
She probably would have been bad, but yeah.
Well, not at her. I don't think he could really blame her when it was like Derek who just went in or me.
CT pro tip: stay mad at the people that throw you on.
No, I don't think CT does that. I think CT pro tip is the one time you should probably put your hand up, still don't, and maybe she won't think about you.
I also CT's like a little going way back, but like his line about the pro tip of have a presence but don't be a presence. If that was like philosophy
Blow
level
your mind.
deep. I love that. I was like, wow, that's a great line.
I don't know that I understand the difference between having a presence and being a presence.
I think it's
a
show that you're
presence.
there, like make sure people know you're there, but don't be so there that you're like in the spotlight. It's like a Zoom. Like make sure you ask a question so people know you're on the call, but don't be throwing so many things out that now like a lot of work gets tossed your way.
I was gonna say, is it like walk softly but carry a big stick? But it's like leave footprints but carry a big stick. Like it's like, but not a million of them. Okay, so Nehemiah calls a meeting with Era 2 before we get to the deliberation. And I just want to know what you think the long-term effects of Laurel going against her team are going to be, if any, because it's an interesting ambush of Era 2 being like, we're all saying we want Jordan to go in. And Laurel individually saying, nah, don't love that.
Yeah, it's I like the technique from Era 2, and I like how they framed it as we just want to be part of the decision-making process. We're all coming in independently. We definitely don't all have an idea of what we should do, but we're all coming in independently. So I like that setup. It is very risky for Laurel. I think to your point you brought up at the top, like she is banking on this format kind of dissolving pretty quickly because unless it is like Anissa said, like now Laurel can be picked for a couple times, it feels like if an Era 2 person's in and wins, like the elimination, they're going to pick Laurel every time. Outside of like, I don't think they would pick Kara or Aviv even at this point.
Yeah,
I think they would pick Laurel because she's now kind of like straying from the group consensus. They don't like she's doing her own thing. She's not doing what's best for the team. I think they would pick Laurel.
It'll be interesting. I think it's tough because I think I would still err on the side of criticizing them like I criticized Laurel and Bananas for putting Kara in the first instance. I don't think this was like a big enough issue yet to significantly weaken your team. I mean, I haven't really clocked into how Aviv's been performing, so maybe I shouldn't say it would significantly weaken their team. I don't know how much Emily backlash is going to happen with this and influencing the team, so it'll be interesting to watch.
It will be. I mean, look, Laurel, it's funny. Come to episode 1, I thought Laurel would have potentially more people, but maybe there are could be like a Kara cult coming back of people supporting her because Laurel's going to just be so despicably awful that you're just forced into the Kara cult.
I mean, I think Kara flopped a few tough losses in that coalition. Like I think we talked about that possibility in the preview, but losing Amanda, losing Pauly, I think is tough. But yeah, I think Laurel is, we didn't know about like maybe we did. Like Ryan, really hates Laurel, and we get a little clip of that this week. I don't think Nehemiah is going to quickly bounce back from feeling like disrespected in this respect, but she is such a force on their team. And I think some of the men who don't like her are going to have to start thinking like her, which is if these eras don't last forever and we're running individual finals with mixed gendered pairs, I want Laurel in that. And I haven't seen Aviv in 18 years. So it's
quiet season. Quiet season from Nehemiah so far, which is kind of I was very excited for him in this mix. Era 2, yeah, he hasn't had much.
Yeah, they're doing a good job editing the people you kind of need to see for then who's going to be in the decision making and who's going to ultimately go home. I think without it being too heavy handed. So, obviously the Jenny and Anissa thing was so telegraphed, but it does remind me how many people are on this cast, even when they cut 8 right off the bat. Like when they flash to somebody at a random confessional, I'm like, I forgot they were on the season. That happened like 2 or 3 times this episode.
Yeah, I mean, we've lost a lot of people there, but there's still, coming this with 30 people, which is an exorbitant amount usually for a reality TV show. So it feels like we've lost a lot, but we also start with 1,000 people. You're going to have a lot of people for a while.
How'd you think the deliberation went for everyone?
It was fine. Yeah, I mean, the Derek
that.
thing, obviously, we talked about was kind of funny. Everyone did fine. I don't know. They brought back the hourglass. Didn't really have much of a factor, but I guess now we actually have a timestamp on the hourglass. It's 30 minutes, so that's fun.
I think they've been showing it, but yeah, it hasn't really mattered. They didn't really show everybody making their pitch. The one thing I'll say, who am I forgetting? Anissa and oh no, because it was just the two teams. Anyway, they didn't really show Anissa saying much except Derek sit down. The thing about Derek's chart and his strategy is like it was mostly a bit, right? Because nobody needs to be convinced of that. Like the obvious move is to put Jordan and Nia in if you want to take a hit and not cut a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not dissimilar to Tony and Avery. Tony cut a deal, so he was trying to put in the weaker team. Here, they're going to put in the perceived weaker team because they're cutting a deal with the stronger team. That's what it is. So I thought Derek was being like honest, being genuine, but also kind of doing a lot of circus because it's not a hard case to make. It's not like he was doing anything mind-blowing. Right. Nia was interesting to me though, because like Jordan was doing a lot of like kiss the ring and like tell him you'll be good with him if you're good with me. It's like I don't know that Nia really needed to be doing that with Bananas with Jordan, but she did fine.
It can't hurt. Like Jordan's advice was probably right. Like Bananas still to this day would have the ego that if someone's buttering up to him, it would help. Like we saw with Kara, like that's what he really wanted with Kara. To be like, don't worry, Johnny, I won't come for you. Let's work together. Let's do this. But so I think it's still worth a shot.
And then before we get to the arena, and we'll talk about this because this is my favorite part of the episode, but Josh, just to set the stage, does decide in an Era 4 meeting that he is going to nominate himself no matter the outcome, which I thought was a good idea on the heels of this last daily being trivia. You have to think there's going to be something more physical coming up for the next daily, which Era 4 would excel at. So I liked this thought from Josh.
It's an interesting thought.
I like what he does even more at the end of the episode.
I would say. Because I think still for Josh, he could say he's in the best shape of his life and do all these things, but Josh needs to avoid elimination at all costs. I think he's just not well suited for that. That's his history. He can be in the best shape of his life. Maybe he'll surprise me. Josh lasts long in this game by getting into as few eliminations as possible, so he should not be volunteering himself ever to be in the position of being an elimination. Make it forced upon you.
In a game, yes. CT pro tip: never volunteer to go in. In a game where the tide is turning, that everyone's going to have to go in, and Horacio's already been in. And who else is even on their team? And Paulie's gone. Was he Era 4? Yeah. So when you're down to Theo, who went in, Horacio, who went in, and it's you and Kyland, of course, something could always change. So make it Kyland, and maybe next week the format changes, or maybe next week people get more strategic and won't let you volunteer. That said, I don't hate the move of looking at what this daily was and then saying like, well, I'll take my chances on the hopefully post trivia physical challenge. But all right, let's get to the arena. Let's get to the big elimination. I think it was no surprise that Derek and Anissa are getting thrown in. At any point, did you think it was going to be Jordan and Nia?
No, I thought going in before everything started, like the breakdown with Jordan throwing it, I thought, oh, Jordan's definitely going in. And then as it plays out by the time we got to the elimination, I was like, oh, Jordan and I are definitely not going in. So no, it was not a surprise to see Anissa and Derek as the ones tossed into here. But
yeah, I thought scene with Jenny and Anissa was like too perfect.
That also, that was playing in the back of my head. That felt too perfect. But yeah, we get Pick It Up is the elimination. Very similar to, I feel like, things we've done in the past, kind of Big Brother style as well. You have to toss a ball up onto a ramp. As it's falling down, you have to run over, this time and collect jacks, 40 of them spread out on the sand, and put them up on a board. Then anytime the ball drops, anything you're holding gets put in like an out-of-bounds zone, which is a little bit farther away to collect. But whoever collects the 40 first gets the win.
Yeah, I like the game jacks. I thought this was like a cute kind of like escalation of a schoolyard game. physical, endurance-based. Tough draw, I thought, for Anissa. And honestly, Derek against Horacio, I was kind of worried about both of them.
Yeah, definitely seemed like this very much favored Horacio and Jenny, but both eliminations were incredibly close. Shout out to Anissa. I feel like even more so for her because it seemed like something that was so not up her alley and seemed like way up Jenny's alley. But I almost feel like I joked about this. I think it was at 39 or one of the seasons. I was like, oh, should someone fake that their endurance is so bad that they're like, oh, actually, maybe they're not really a final threat and we can bring them to a final. I don't think that's what Jenny's doing. But she's won a final before. So she has to have some level of good and won like she was first overall in that final. Is it crazy that she was like playing this up a little bit?
This was like a James-esque idea because, like, right, James did so bad in that early Mariah's James.
Yes.
That got tossed around. Yeah, I don't know if this is related, but like Emily Schramm tweeted, quit vaping, Jenny. So perhaps there's some vaping going on. Allegedly, I don't know.
It goes back to who was that other Portland girl that TJ reamed out of like, oh, I guess she shouldn't be smoking cigarettes before the elimination.
Yeah.
What was her name? I'm a tall girl. Bird.
Oh my god, it's right in my head. Hold on. It's not Anastasia. What's her name?
Yeah, that's it. Anastasia.
Cigarettes before elimination, the challenge. TJ hates cigarettes. That's a Reddit thread. Look at me, I'm deep in Reddit. Anastasia in the first or Anastasia gets dizzy and loses the elimination. TJ says, well, I guess that's what happens when you smoke cigarettes and don't eat. And then in the World's final, TJ tells Maddie, you got to stop smoking those cigarettes.
Yep.
Slay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's what Rachel says. Like, Anissa's been doing her cardio. Anissa is conditioned. It's what Anissa says in this episode. It's not about how you physically appear that determines your health and strength. And shout out to Anissa. Honestly, I was hoping that she would win. Shut up the haters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would have been quite the upset if she pulled this off. I'm sure everyone would have. I mean, I guess outside of Era 4 because they kind of need Jenny's strength, but everyone else probably would have been thrilled to see Jenny go home and Anissa stay. And then the men's one was crazy close too. I kind of wish Horacio was available to speak because I would have loved to ask him about the way this was edited, where it seemed like by the TV show he catches the last ball and kind of like moseys on over to stick the last jack in, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, Horacio won. And then it cuts to like confusion. It's like, oh my god, who won? And then Derek wins. They don't really show like usually when it's that close, they'll do like a flashback of like how close it was and like showing exactly who put the last jack in. But it was crazy to see that Derek ended up pulling out the win.
Yeah. Yasmin Sharif Pinter said, watch the last minutes of the elimination several times. Derek has an empty hole on his board when the horn is blown, and again when he hugs Horacio seemingly after the win. But they come back and say Derek won. Was this bad editing or rigged? And Jamie Chatron says, I think some fell out when he had that miss, and maybe he didn't have to replace it. Okay. That's interesting. They do show two complete boards like later in like a jump clip. I think it's kind of Bush League. Like he should probably have to replace it if he falls into the board and knocks them out.
Yeah. I do remember him sliding into it and one of them popping out. I do like
a bunch of them fell out.
Yeah.
Like a huge number of them fell out.
He should have to put him back in. Like that's kind of crazy.
Maybe
Horacio thought he had. That's why maybe he went slowly because he didn't realize like one of the ones that was empty was like, oh, I got him by a jack here. I got this, but no.
Yeah, one of my other favorite pro tips from the day: when you're in the lead, don't get greedy. Like Derek takes a lead and then goes for 5 jacks. Like I get it because probably Anissa, looking back, wishes she started doubling up sooner. And I respected that TJ highlighted that like the girls put on a master class and the boys took note because the boys learned how to do it from watching the women. And like you didn't need to go for 5 though. You didn't need to go to
5's a lot. Yeah, Anissa said she started off just doing 1 at a time, and if she was doing 2 at a time, she probably would have pulled out the win. Going 5 is a little much. I almost was wondering if there should have been, maybe this would have taken too long, but if you drop a ball, should the penalty have been you have to like completely start over?
maybe. But when they're doing 40 jacks, I
That's what I was
think
thinking. Yeah,
that's
40's a
enough.
lot. Yeah.
4 is enough. I was so thrilled that Derek won. I was like in disbelief. I loved it. To be clear, I don't think it was rigged. Whatever. I mean,
No,
we would
definitely
be
not.
seeing an outpouring on Twitter anytime something's like they aired it out of order. Like everyone on Twitter is like blowing up. And I do feel bad for Horacio, but let's get him back next season.
And I'm good. Once again, there was not the same era losing 2 people. It's split across, so we're at least going slowly into the situation of like one era having like a disproportionate amount of people. So we're buying a few more weeks.
I wanted to say this earlier. I do like that they have to pick them in pairs because I do think it adds at least a little bit more intrigue. I think otherwise it would have been Naya and Derek in here.
Probably,
and
yeah.
that's less interesting to me. Like I want them to have to make some tough choices.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that too.
All right, let's talk about the new targets. So CT and Tina nominate themselves. I love how Josh gets the like CT wouldn't nominate himself unless he knew people were going in that he could beat, and we get the "Give me the goof" flashback. Beautiful.
I cannot believe. I hope that's a picture somewhere on the screen too. Of Give me the goof. I kind of forgot. Like I mean, I obviously know the line. I didn't really remember the context of "Give me the goof," but it was great to see it play out.
I mean, but here, like CT's no hero. Like Darrell just went in. Derek's now been in twice. Is not eligible. Apparently, Darrell wasn't no. Again, Darrell's not eligible. If Darrell's not eligible, CT's volunteering makes no sense.
Yeah, but also, I mean, yes, there are some people who like Jordan who you wouldn't want to go up against Bananas, but CT would be favored almost against anyone in elimination. So if he's going in, he feels like he can beat anyone anyway.
That's true. I just think like why if Darrell is safe, as Anissa reported in your exit interview, and Derek is safe, why wouldn't TJ be like, per the rules, CT, you're in, next person? Like
Right.
you think
I think
production made
Anissa
him
was
raise his
wrong with
hand?
how. Yeah, I think Anissa was wrong. Well, she was
I don't know. Listen to the challenge official podcast for more information on that.
Yeah.
Era 2, Emily and Nehemiah. Now Nehemiah did not self-nominate. No one self-nominated from Era 2.
Didn't seem like it, no.
But Emily, I believe, did.
So
yes, Emily nominated. Emily volunteered. Devin gets picked from Era 3, much to his chagrin. I think he expected Corey to nominate, but did Corey say he was going to? We got a lot of confessions of Corey being like, buy me another week.
Yeah, they in the Era 3 discussion, it would seem like they were hoping Corey would nominate, but I don't think it was ever decided who would self-nominate. But Corey was like, I'm not going to self-nominate, so I'm going to let someone else self-nominate.
Yeah, Devin, I think, thinks he's smarter than Corey and therefore should be able to get him to do things that are dumb for his game that he doesn't want to do. Nah, Corey was born tonight, not last night.
Interesting that Tori was also picked with Devin.
And I think Tori self-nominated. Like, again, it was like a little confusing who put their hand up. I think Tori did put her hand up. And then Olivia gets picked and Olivia volunteers and Josh silent backs out and Kylan gets picked. And I absolutely, completely respect Josh from looking at the men and saying, I do not want to go against CT and Era 1's been sucking. Yep. I am not doing this.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we gave like Jay so much grief of like, don't overpromise until you know what you're delivering on. And maybe Josh watched that and was like, I'm not going down that route. I'm backing out now and I'm forcing them to pick me to go in. So very much worked out. And the fact that Kylan was picked actually goes against the Anissa thing because Kylan was just the target like 2 targets ago. So Anissa, I don't know what she was saying to me.
But Devin and Nehemiah would have been decent draws for Josh. I think just the threat that Era 1 would lose was too much. And being tied to Olivia was someone who has negative social capital in the house and certainly on her own team. Like, she was the first person voted in by her own team. Now, the question to me is, how does Michelle dodge putting her hand up here when Olivia, again, has already had to go in?
Queen Michelle. Social queen.
Devin wishes he was playing Michelle's game.
Seriously.
And Casey was just in last week with Kylan. So, yeah, it really would have been just Michelle or Olivia. It should have been Michelle. A little de facto situation.
Yeah, Josh should. Yeah, now Josh could volunteer. Like if he knows Casey's going in, like that's the good person to be paired up with because he, Casey's got some friends, got some relationships. So go in when Casey's paired up, and then that's a good volunteering situation, Josh.
So we once again do not get an update on the karma points, no mention of it, which is like kind of irritating to me. I'd like to at least have it be mentioned episode to episode. But I want to get a little clarification from your interview because you said something to Jody like, who did you give your 5s to? And she phrased it back to you the same way. Like, are you under the impression that they have like a limited number of 5s they can give, or can they just rank everyone 5 if they want?
I don't know if they have I don't think they can give 5s to everyone, but I don't know if there's like a select amount. But I think it's like rank who you want to give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to.
Yeah. Okay. So I think they could like okay, that was my interpretation too. But then I was like, wait, I'm confused. Okay, sorry, there's a million sirens right now. Hashtag New York.
It is weird though, like because I feel like I don't know why they aren't showing this, and also I feel like they should be showing discussion in the house because if these people have all watched the show before and they know they did something similar on 30, I feel like there has to be a discussion in the house of are these people actually going home or is there or like a redemption type thing? Should we play that? Like, are we worried about that? I'm surprised that they're not discussing. I mean, maybe I'm bookmarking that for the next exit interview. I'm asking them: was there discussion? Was there a redemption house? Because I feel like that has to be yes.
So the interesting thing, I don't know if you saw, there was a TikTok that Nerese made about like why was there no redemption house, and she said, now I don't know if this was in front of the people in the house or not, but she said almost immediately when they were like kept after the first elimination, they were told they were going to the elimination house. It was like notably not called a redemption house. And they were like asking production, like, why isn't there a redemption house? And they were like, sorry, we've like pulled the audience, and the audience, like the viewers, hate the redemption house. And we weren't going to spend money on like something they hate. Now, kudos to production for generally getting that message. I think we all would collectively agree on 40 that that would have been a different case. But I respect the rationale.
No, I love it.
You wouldn't have wanted a redemption house for the season?
No,
oh, that's crazy.
There's too many
I
people.
feel like you've said differently on this podcast.
No, if I say that I was like drunk at the time because I'm against redemption stuff at all times.
No, I think okay, then I'll speak for myself. I would have been fine to like catch a few more minutes with these people, to like flash to the redemption house, to have some challenges going on, have them come in like halfway. Nothing crazy. I think this is what we've said before. Like, don't come in to be the 5th team at the final when you haven't been in the house. But halfway through season 40, when there's still 20 people, could 2 people who battled in the redemption house come back so that we could see Mark and Katie a little bit more? Like, yes.
Fine. If that was the case, but like I'm worried that I'm still scarred from Final Reckoning and all the stuff they did there. So
yeah,
I'm good.
But they're listening.
I mean, look at that. They're listening. Bring back the physical eliminations. Get rid of Redemption House. Can we all make the collective push for no more 20 episode seasons? Could that be the next push? Like, let's shorten the season. Let's make it a shorter film.
Brian appealing to the super fans to tell them we want less of the challenge. That's gonna
honestly hit. Yes. I feel like the super fans do want less. I think we all feel like by the time we get to episode 14 and we're still not even close to a final, it's like this is why they changed all the structure during the season, because they have to fill 4 months of episodes. If it's 13 episodes, boom, you're in the final.
Let's talk about the drinking game.
Yes, we got the list. Kyle Bacard sent it over from last week. We had 9. So this is from last week's episode, not this one. Remember, people. Last week's episode, 9. 3 confessional animations, 5 mentions of kids and family. 1 time the picture coming to life. Kyle was confused what you meant by the what the hourglass was. So
someone references the hourglass.
Yeah.
Like,
but now, so that's going.
I'm going to flip this hourglass.
Yes, that'll be 1 for next week.
Also, Kyle, you could just make it up 0 if you don't understand the rule. It's fine. So I have the full list that we added. Someone sends himself in and Anissa complains. But I didn't know what Anissa complains meant, but that doesn't matter now because she's gone.
She's gone. I feel like that's like the second straight time. Like, you wanted to do that with Tony, and then now he's gone. I did a rule with Anissa, now she's gone. Is that like the kiss of death?
Well, I hope not. Based on the
we have the 8 targets. So we do a drinking game rule with one of the 8 targets, and like force them to go home.
Oh yeah, that's true. The ones I'm doing don't have anything to do with the 8 targets.
Like, I don't know.
And
Emily
I'm gonna
gives
clarify.
a massage.
I'm gonna clarify. Sends themselves in. Oh God. Um, I don't think. Will you let me know what you think about this? I don't think it should count if someone volunteers to be a target. I think it has to be like I choose to go in, like a Derek
Yeah,
or a Tony and Avery. I think that would count too.
I think so. What do you got for this week?
So anytime, and we've done this way back, but anytime there is non-challenge related merch or a plug for a business, so like the Rachel Fitness, if Bananas is wearing his own merch, I don't know who else has merch. That's my rule.
Let's bring back. I don't know. I don't think we've seen it yet. But anytime something's like blurred out, non-nudity related, like if a shirt or a logo or something is blurred out, we can bring that back.
Okay, really quick before we get to the connections, I have another merch related item. So last week I asked you to, I quizzed you on who you think had their own custom shirts. There is a challenge 40th anniversary TV show available on the Paramount shop. Have you seen this? Don't go to
I have
anything.
not. I have not.
Okay. So it's pretty cool. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 logos from challenge seasons past. And it says the challenge 40th anniversary with the 15 logos. I'll give you 5 guesses. I didn't look to see if there's like a theme. For all I know, this is like season 5, 10, 15, 12, whatever. I don't think it is. It's not necessarily what I would have picked. In 5 guesses, do you think you could hit 5 of the 15 on here?
5 of the 15 like season logos that are
that they've selected for this.
Let's see. Rivals.
Well, yeah.
Battle of the Sexes.
That's one.
Okay.
Ding.
Inferno. Free Agents. Jesus.
You're 1 for 3.
Close.
Not free, but
not free, but in jail.
What did you say? What was your guess?
Not free.
What was your last season guess?
Rivals. No, Inferno.
No.
Free Agents.
And not free, but
Double Agents.
There you go. All right. You could get one more guess I don't give you a hint on, so you could go out 3 and 3.
What season had a cool logo? The Island?
Okay, we'll give it to you. I was going to say I wouldn't care about if it had a cool logo, but yes. All right, so it was the Real World Road Rules Challenge.
So I guess I should discuss the original.
Battle of the Seasons 1, Battle of the Sexes, which you got, the Duel, the Challenge 30, XXX. No real order to this. The Challenge War of the Worlds 2, Vendettas, Total Madness, The Ruins, Double Agents, the Challenge War of the Worlds 1, inexplicably listed after War of the Worlds 2, the Challenge Cutthroat, The Island, Battle of the Sexes 2, and Rivals 3. Sorry, you said Rivals. We couldn't accept that. It was Rivals 3.
Womp, womp, womp.
This should be your connections. Like, why are these the ones that were chosen?
Very weird. Very weird. Especially because either War of the Worlds 1 or War of the Worlds 2 was not called that during the filming of the show. And then they like went back and like changed the name of it. I think it was War of the Worlds 2. It was like called something else. And then, like in post-production, they called it something different.
Yeah, it was like a war name or something. And they were like, that's probably bad.
Like, yeah, they couldn't do it. Okay, connections. Last week. The connections I scrolled up too far. Was Tori, Leroy, Nani, and Fessel. A couple of people got it right. They were people that were eliminated in a final. This one for this week. Okay. It's my computer's like it knows it's under stress. It's like bugging. All right. These
my computer's under stress. Emily needs to massage it quick.
Seriously. Jenna, Darrell, Cam and Jordan.
I'm so happy.
Jenna, Darrell, Cam, and Jordan.
All right.
Give it a think, people.
There's some tweets. Honestly, Naya and I follow each other on Twitter, so I've always followed Naya, and like Naya has awoken. Are you blocked and she follows me?
Very much so.
Honestly, work. Here's just like a selection. Naya tweets more than anyone, and it's so funny. They're always hit. She's very thirsty. It's very funny. Derek is so cute for that well-written pitch. He ain't lying, though. The no-brainer is send me and Jordan in. Slay one dragon by default with Horacio already being in there. But again, I've learned that deep ties and outside relationships, we're going to block those shots at every turn. That's the game. She tweeted, secretly, Anissa was giving Jenny the business, and nobody saw this coming. I told y'all to put respect in her name. She had the endurance, and she didn't stop moving. Remember this when y'all fix your mouths to say something slick moving forward. That's like directly at Brian. I'm glad I can deliver Naya's message to you, even though you're blocked.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a long time. I've been blocked for like 10 years now.
And then Naya said, love how Jordan set the tone for Era 3 and volunteered for the target. It made it less scary for the rest of us. We decided to just take turns. Let the other team self-destruct over that. Not us, though. This is a team game. No room for selfishness. Shrug emoji, applause emoji, flex emoji. And Emily said, Naya, I'm going to need you to drink every time you tweet Jordan. And then just some words from Kylan. He said, when you memorize the winners, elimination records, cities, and countries for every season, can't relate, you feel pretty good. I only didn't know 3 of the 20 or so questions asked. Unfortunately, 2 of those were mine. Facepalm emoji. No excuses. It's my fault. I'll learn for next time. Hashtag back to school. Dork emoji with a baby with water wingies flopping into a pool saying fail. And Kylan also said there were people up there who literally swam in the Aegean Sea during the challenge and didn't know the answer. That being said, I have no excuses. I'm so embarrassed. I love that Kylan tweets excuse and is like, that being said, I own it. This podcast ran long, and I did have a lot of things to get to. But that being said, I have no excuses.
No offense.
I own it.
No offense. No offense.
That's it.
That's it. You can subscribe. Rob has website.com/challenge feed. TikTok, challenge wrap ups, Twitter, Cohen Brian _ Programming note. Seems like there's no episode next week.
Yeah.
So we will not be back next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Keep in mind. And they can follow you.
Do you think Rob's going to want us to come on here anyway and be like a 10-minute podcast? He came out very strongly against people missing podcasts. We're here, though. We're always here.
I heard that. That was like the strongest take I've ever heard from Rob about anything production related. So that's
also like, Rob, NGOG is not in your network. You don't have to subtweet us like that. Follow listen to NGOG. 3 times ice cream this week. I won't be like Brian. I won't be conservative and smart about like when to announce things if they may not happen. Brendan Donlin scheduled to appear on New Girl Old Guy this week. So
you did
that's 4 in a row.
You said scheduled to appear. That's still
well. I think you were smart. You were scheduled to do exit interviews.
I was scheduled. All right, we'll be back in 2 weeks, probably for episode 5.
Ominous.
It's all bad.
We're scheduled to be back.
We're scheduled to be back in 2 weeks. You never know. Look, the world's a crazy place. You never know. We'll be back 2 weeks. Have a good one.
That's so sad.